Hey guys, welcome back to New World Carpentry Solutions. In this video, I get to give a full tour update of the shop here in 2025. We have actually been in this shop for a full year. I believe we started after finishing the cabinets on the right hand side of the shop. I believe we finished those around January the 11th back in 2024. So we're looking at roughly a full year in the shop, and that includes everything that's been built so far. The bench seats over to the left, the cabinet that holds most of my lawn equipment, overhead storage, this whole entire section of bank of cabinets over here on the right hand side. This is essentially the automotive shop inside the garage. This holds all the ratchets, sockets, wrenches, oil, antifreeze, pretty much everything you need to, drop a motor and put it back in. And then as we move toward the back side of the shop, you guys get to see my full wood shop, being my workbench. I think we're about to actually take a nice little dive into this section of wrenches. I believe I actually take a full wrapper all the way around the shop. So coming over here to the right, first thing, it was actually one of the first things I built in here. We were still organizing all the mechanics tools, and I just needed some way to put all these larger wrenches because they wouldn't fit inside the drawers I built. After getting that taken care of, we finally mounted a sink, a mini fridge, which is awesome. It's nice to be able to have cold water out here in the shop. And then these bench seats are really awesome. They allow me to store all the excess stuff that I don't really actively grab toward, being like extra wheels and casters for my workbenches. I think I just have an empty bin right here. What was in here? Yeah, that's just a net for the front side of the garage door. So again, like these two bench seats don't have much in them, but again, it gives me optional storage. We have the motor that powers the car lift right here. This lift only lifts probably about 2 feet up. It hasn't been plugged up or actually used in probably about 11-12 years. One of my biggest things is trying to get my dad to get that outside so I can actually have full access to the shop. But coming toward the front, we have this cabinet here which holds most of our lawn equipment: brooms, shovels, leaf blowers, etc. This is just a general cabinet that my dad can come and grab his weed eater, go outside and take care of the lawn and put his stuff back, ideally. But it's fairly organized. It's a fairly deep one. I believe it's about 2 feet deep, and it's right here next to the garage door and right here by the entryway. Then working our way around, we pretty much have the first thing that I actually built inside this garage. We also have Bob here. This is my brother's punching bag. It is now stationed out here, and I get to practice my kung fu in the middle of projects. We'll come over here to this bank of cabinets. This is actually the first thing I got built in here. These were cabinets that I'm pretty much dedicated to my father. He is a Falcons fan, so I went with red cedar handles, black lacquer for the doors, and the goal was to consolidate all of his 30+ years of tool collecting into one space. We did not really succeed in that because we still have the lift sitting right behind me, but we got most of his tools consolidated here. And also, funny enough, this has been a full year and he has yet to clean off the bench top. So I think it's another project for myself. But we have all the drawers and everything else fairly organized, as you saw above. Like the middle drawers are all standard. Everything on the right hand side is metric. So we have metric wrenches, standard wrenches, metric sockets, standard sockets. Then as we go down, we have ratchets, pulley clamps, oil filter wrenches, etc. They're all organized by the drawer. Labels will probably be one great addition to this section. Definitely looking into them, but as of right now, I pretty much have a gist of where everything is, and I'm kind of the person that asks when they're looking for something. C-clamps, etc. Better organization would be labels. I plan to get a label maker that would kind of help me out with the drawers inside of my truck and the drawers on my workbench, just so I can kind of have an idea of where everything is. But these cabinets are holding up phenomenal after a full year. One thing I can say though, we use pine for all the face frames and the doors. Pretty much with the size of some of these doors, they do have the ability to cup or bolt. Like you see that one right there, it's not fully closed. Pretty much if it was maple or like a hard maple or something like that, it would have actually stayed straighter. But this being pine and it's like a 4 or 5 foot door with stuff hanging on it, it ended up cupping a little bit. It's not really much of an issue. It's just, aesthetically, yeah. But for the first cabinets that I've actually built, or a full set of cabinets that I've built, I think they're holding up phenomenal, and my dad still loves them. But as we move on from the cabinets, we're going to go into essentially my first section of the shop, which starts right here past the cabinets. Right here on this right hand wall, I have my dust collector. Where this picnic table is, I plan to actually remove that, and I plan to build a custom hand tool bench, probably something from Rex Kruger. I don't want to go too in depth with it, but I do want to build a fairly nice one that's going to house right there. The dust collector is actually going to get mounted on this right hand side of the wall up above my thickness planer. I plan to use one of the Wind Environmental canister filters, have a separator and a dust cyclone or a separator going to a trash bin, and that's going to be my dust collection setup. I'm going to route hoses over to the workbench and probably over here to this side of the wall to where the drill press and bandsaw. My drill press table was kind of built in a rush just so I can have the ability to so I can do the mortises for the stiles and rails on the door. But one thing I do want to do is finish building the drawers for this and also build a full base cabinet that allowed us to roll around the shop and also more storage. The bandsaw, I really wish I could have built a table on it, a cabinet for it, but then I realized that there's actually a motor housed beneath that section. I originally thought the bandsaw was just this upper section. That lower section is also the motor, so I can't really build a cabinet for it. A little bit heartbreaking, but that's gonna stay where it is. One of the biggest things that I actually built in the shop that I love, like to death now, is this mobile material cart. This is a workbench. It holds material. I have everything from my vise to a bench grinder, plenty of pegboard, storage space on the shelf above. My batteries hang here. This is really just a catch-all space right now, but I do plan to do more upgrades to the bench because I do have bench dog holes on the face of it. I can use it as essentially a panel jig. It will allow me to, route or plane the edges of doors. I can also set up to do mortises here. I plan to actually get all that dialed in. But besides it just being a functional workbench and also kind of really ingenious in my opinion, I have material storage also built into the workbench. This bay right here is 6 foot long because that's how long the workbench is, but it's also 4 feet tall, so I can fit full 4x8 sheets in there. Then my cubbies here are actually divided. We have the top row being full 6 foot, the second row is I believe 3 foot and 3 foot, and the bottom row is 2 foot and 4 foot, so I can kind of segregate or separate all of my scrap material, as I go. On the back side, there's just another section of bins. These actually hold various small offcuts. Another thing though I love is that I built this to actually lip over the concrete. So actually that little section of bump out right there allows it to lip over top of the center block stem wall that runs the perimeter of the shop. So again, I get to maximize all the space versus just having a cabinet or a workbench butt up to the center block. I make use of that extra 4 to 5 inches, and that goes the same for the shelf on top of this. So all that is actually in line, but it gives me extra storage. And I'm going to walk around to the other side because I have that one center bin that runs all the way through. That's for the 4x8 sheets. But I also have another additional cubby on the other side that actually is for 4x4 sheets. So pretty much I can store anything that I have as far as scrap plywood inside the shop. Full sheets, maybe like 3 or 4 of them, maybe 5 at max before it becomes filled to capacity. But for the most part, this is already fillable with various scraps. I probably need to do a little bit better at organizing the bin or utilizing my scraps as I get them. I'm trying to dedicate a rule, if a scrap is too small, toss it. But again, I have an issue like I'm pretty sure most other woodworkers do. So right now what I'm doing to get rid of most of my scraps is actually dedicating all of them to building French cleat holders and various things around the shop. If it's too small and doesn't seem usable, I'm going to find a use for it and make a use for it. Another thing that I actually did to utilize all my scraps, everything that I designated as too small recently got burnt in the fire pit outside. I probably would add a little cutaway segment where I can show you guys how nice that fire was. I think the shop overall has been coming along great, but also one key thing, because the workbench is only 6 foot, because of how I have it positioned here to make sure it clears the door behind it. I have a foot off of the wall and about a foot off of the off of the bandsaw, so full 4x8 sheets. Even though they're longer than the bench, they still don't pretty much impede anything inside the shop, so it's perfect. And now for a Family Guy style cutaway to show how I handle all my scraps. This fire pit is actually awesome. If you guys remember actually stacking up the stones, I believe we did this probably about 4 or 5 months ago. The fire pit is still standing. It's withstood plenty of fires. But as you guys can see in the background, I have yet to finish the siding. It got too cold outside, so I decided to put that off. But there's nothing like being able to burn up all the scraps and still get just a little bit of enjoyment out of it. But now we can cut right back to the shop and continue on with the tour. So here inside, we get to actually show one of my favorite builds though, being the miter saw cart. This is something, again, I copied over from April Wilkerson and Brad over at Fix This built that. But the one thing I think I added that makes this really, really awesome, it's the same thing I did to my mobile Park style workbench, is making the wings expandable. The only issue that with all the other mobile miter saw carts you find on YouTube and everywhere else is the cut capacity. If you're cutting anything over, I think 6 to 8 foot, you have to worry about actually struggling to hold the boards up. But with this setup, I'm able to rest a full 12-foot deck board up here on the saw, free-handed, and then make a cut. I can put one finger on it if it's a longer board than that, but for the most part, these wings actually support, longer boards. It's almost the same as having a full entire workbench dedicated to your miter saw, but again, it folds up and tucks away right here in the corner, and you know, it's pretty awesome. Whenever I need it, I pull it out. Whenever I don't, I slide it right back. And I do love that I actually built it to actually house my original rigid shop vac. And now it's actually holding my Festool CTS MIDI, and the CTS MIDI fits in there nicely, and the dust hose actually reaches right through the backside and plugs right into the miter saw. I do have plenty of pegboard down here that I probably could utilize, either put the hooks on the backside of the cart or, you know, hang stuff on the inside. Right now I just kind of have scraps or my radio and various other things down there, but I do typically keep a tape measure and a pencil inside of the shelf. I do plan to keep a scrap bucket down there, just so you know, as I make cuts, I can throw all my offcuts down there versus looking for my scrap trash can, which, as you guys just saw, they were completely full. I burnt up 2 33-gallon trash cans of scraps, and now I'm back to empty. The next thing I need to do, though, is revitalize this radial arm saw. I believe it still works. I need to add a switch to it. Once I get it running, though, the next thing I need to do is actually build a full cart and stand for it. And then I'll have my 2 cross-cutting options right here in the corner that I can then pull out and use. A few upgrades I did to the planer cart that you guys have been enjoying is adding a few clamp holders on the side of it. And again, the planer cart is so awesome for the simple fact that it takes this DW735 and makes it like a larger planer, because I have the in-feed boards already mounted to it. And because of the head on it, it can raise and lower, so it works as perfect outfeed. And for those of you guys who haven't seen any of the updates to the shop door, I just kind of been going crazy with the French cleat ideas. I saw some online that I thought were really awesome, and me just kind of liking tweaking things, I kind of take them all and just run with it. I saw one online that held paper towels, rags, and gloves. I took that and added a little glue holder and a tape holder. But then I decided to add pegboard to the front side so I can just hang, you know, this is not the permanent location for my push stick or these scissors. It's just to show the idea that this whole front side where I pull my rags from also is a pegboard holder. So, you know, I also need to build a top that actually sits on top of that, but that's coming soon. The goal is to get these items built so I can start organizing the shop so I can make this video for you guys. And here I'm trying to show off how nice and easy it is to pull the tape out. Obviously one-handed, significantly harder, and doesn't look as smooth. And there goes the fumble. But yeah, this has actually been awesome. Probably one of the coolest holders I've managed to knock out. Took a little bit of planing, but I used nothing but scrap plywood. Most of this actually is nothing but 1/2 inch. All the holders I've been building have been 1/2 inch plywood, leftover pegboard, or you know, like some 1/4 inch paneling I had left over from another job I did. The paper towel holder, rag holder, gloves, glue, tape, that holder does it all. I really love it. You guys have been seeing the marker holder and the screwdriver holder, but the marker board on the door also has been holding up nicely. I'm planning to actually put a piece of trim that runs around the perimeter to hide all the staples. Harold is my cousin, so I wrote that on the board to catch him as he came outside to be something, you know, just something funny. This doesn't really hold my various hand tools. Typically these 2 shelves I plan for all of my batteries, but right now most of my batteries are on the job site, so like my router, my sander, and all that stuff can sit on the shelf for right now. But I made this kind of universal, so it holds pretty much any battery tool from jigsaws, drills, oscillator. They all slide into those little holders. And then I actually added the frame and square and stuff like that to the front. I have a couple of BB guns I plan to actually mount to the front of the door to make them handles. And another thing that I think is really cool is that when I built this so that none of this actually impedes, none of these tools impede on the opening of the door. I wanted, let's say the material bench is stationed where it is, I want the door to be able to open as wide as it can, and I wanted to make sure that none of these holders impeded that. So I made sure that, you know, this holder was up high enough and sized properly that any tools I have hanging here still clears the bench, so I can still open the door fully. And the same thing on the other side with the planer cart. So all the holders that are going to be down lower are probably going to be low profile, maybe hold, you know, circular saw blades, maybe you know, various measuring tools. But on the back side of the door is pretty much dedicated for clamp storage. I have all my bar clamps and parallel clamps all hanging on the back side of the door. And another thing that I really love, I was able to build another scrap bin that again hangs on the door. And because I had so much leftover pegboard, that is what I use for the front side. So if I want to, right now I just have a rubber mallet hanging off the front, but I can hang pretty much whatever I want. And anybody else who's been paying attention to the builds on the channel, you guys see the beautiful mahogany door. But I hope you guys have enjoyed the tour, and if you did, please leave me a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.